Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Ann Mundell Noel, who is our resident expert in hearing with Amazing Hearing. Well, Ann, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Now, we've talked many times before over the course of the last year and a half under our pandemic situation. But of course, it is now reopened and we are heading into a situation where people are going to socialize again, not even 6-foot distancings. And thank goodness, majority of people will not have to wear masks, which I'm sure is a grateful thing for most folks who have to wear a hearing aid.
For sure. They are going to be ecstatic because that mask was muffling sound and taking away visual cues. So it's going to be a great thing.
So one of the things that we've talked about before are folks who do have to have an adjustment. And many people have been pretty much staying at home and probably not using their hearing aids that much. So now that they're going to be wearing their hearing aids even more, what are some things they need to keep in mind?
Well, the first thing that we want to remind people is that they have been in a quiet atmosphere and the world is noisy. So it's been quiet for a long time. And with that, the brain kind of loses its ability to filter that background noise. So the one thing that we want to remind people is to be patient, to give yourself a little bit of grace, because as you get into those noisier environments, your brain will learn to refilter, but it takes time. So it's kind of like if you haven't been working out and then you start going to the gym and you go, ooh, my muscles are a little sore, or I think I can do this, and then you can't. It's the same thing. The brain and the body just need time. So the biggest thing I want to remind people is that give yourself some grace and slowly work into it. But we are also adjusting hearing aids. So people who have not been in noise for a year, year and a half, you can either lower the volume, maybe 1 or 2 steps, or come back into the office and we'd be happy to readjust your hearing aids to maybe one of those lower levels when you were first getting used to wearing hearing aids. So it is a process.
Oh, okay. So it's good. At least they can have adjustments if needed. Now, again, another subject matter is we've talked about people who just really do not want to wear hearing aids and put it off. But then once they put it off, they're like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner? So what's some advice that you could give people who are kind of on the fence on doing that?
Sure. When it comes to hearing, our body and our brain are looking for normal input. So when we talk about normal, there's a range between 0 and 20 decibels that's normal. But when you fall below that range, you're starting to put stress on your body, and we start to have to compensate with like using visual cues, or when we put the mask on, those visual cues got taken away, and a lot of people thought, oh my gosh, I'm really struggling. Well, you don't realize that subconsciously your body is stressed and is working harder to try to get an input that everybody else has. So that's what we want to do, is take the stress off the body. So I tell people that having a hearing loss and not doing something about it is kind of like if you were going to run up a hill. Running up a hill is hard for everybody. Hearing and background noise is hard for everybody. But if I put on ankle weights and tried to run up the hill and keep up with you who didn't have ankle weights on, that would be harder. And that's kind of what people are doing with hearing loss, is they're trying to keep up with people who have a full spectrum of input, and they can't, because the brain says, I can only do so much. And then I have to try to play catch up, and I can't catch up if you don't give me enough information. So that's why they can kind of get by in quiet, but they don't get by in noise. And so we want to encourage people to give yourself as much input as possible. Don't stress yourself out.
Right, no. Right. And another thing that we've talked about before is stigma. People don't want to wear hearing aids. And one thing that you had mentioned to me before is that you think that hearing is about 15 years behind glasses and eyes, right. That people will wear glasses now because it's cool. And, there's a lot of really great selections. Same with hearing aids. Now the technology has changed so much, there's a lot to choose from. So don't you think that that's still the case?
That is the case, and I appreciate you bringing that back up, because as soon as glasses were no longer needed, meaning we got contact lenses, right? Then it was a choice whether or not you wanted people to see you with a frame or not. And that's when they kind of became fun, right? They were called Coke bottle and 4 eyes, and people didn't want them. Then when we got the contact lenses, boom, people started wearing them socially just to look good. Well, the same thing is happening with hearing. Hearing aids are becoming so discreet that people don't even notice that you have them on. And now that we have AirPods and the young kids are wearing all these things in their ears, the stigma of having something on your ear is not there anymore. And so that's encouraging a lot of people who maybe didn't want to get into it because of the social stigma. Now, I will say a hearing aid is much less conspicuous than a hearing loss, right? If you can hear, people don't look in your ears. It's when you can't hear that they're like, what the heck? Is she not hearing me? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
So
Or
we
they
just
repeatedly say what, or I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, that, and then that person has to repeat themselves, which can be, quite annoying actually.
Well, and it can be annoying for 2 reasons. One is because if you repeat verbatim what you just said, they're probably going to miss that same word that they missed the first time, right? So I tell people, if you're going to repeat something, change the messaging. So if I said to you, I'm going to go to the store, and you said, what? Instead of saying the same thing, say, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go to the market. I'm going to go buy the groceries, or something to give them some more information about that word. But to repeat it verbatim is frustrating because it's probably the same word. But then I tell the person who has the hearing loss, it's not fair to you to say what, because that makes the person speaking have to stop and then think, okay, what part of that message didn't you get, right? Did you not get one word? Did you not get the whole thing? Mm-hmm. So the person with the hearing loss, their role in it is to tell you, the speaker, what did you miss? So I could say to you, Lisa, where did you say you were going? Or did you say you were going to go to the door? No, I said I was going to the store. I'm going shopping. I'm going to go get the groceries. Okay. And that can kind of facilitate communication much better, because the and what's and gets very frustrating.
It certainly does. It does. Now, you have an event that's coming up, which I think is awesome. It's a digital technology event. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we're going to have a specialist who deals with digital technology, which means he's an audiologist who really comes in and explains to patients about hearing aids, the same thing that we do, but it's going to be an extra hand in the office, if you will, or 2 sets of ears. But he is going to come in, and we are going to feature the Oticon More hearing aid, which has deep neural networking, which is a form of artificial intelligence. And basically what that does is it just helps separate the speech, which is really spiky, from the background noise, which is steady state, to give the brain the cleanest, clearest signal to process. So It's getting really exciting because the technology is getting so good at figuring out what we want to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know it's June 29th through July 1st. And is it going to be all day, every day, or how is that working?
It's going to be all day, all 3 days, but you do have to schedule an appointment. So it's by appointment only, but we'll have lots of opportunities, but get in early. We have special incentives, and we have some special gifts for this to kind of kick off the summer, kick off people getting back into technology. There's many levels of pricing. We have pricing that goes as low as big box stores. There's so much to offer now. You can get so much out of a hearing aid, but you got to step in.
Perfect. Thank you again. It was nice to see you.
Thank you, Lisa. I look forward to talking to you again.
All right. And we'll be right back after this.